welcome to my channel. My name is Hurley. If you're new here, welcome. Glad to have you. If you're not, welcome back. Glad to see you again. This is Scarlett. She will be my co-host for today. But in today's video, I wanted to talk about studying abroad and what I wish I knew before going and deciding to sign up for one. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So a little backstory. I just got back from an immersion program in Vienna. It was the first year that it's ever happened. It wasn't a traditional study abroad. It was, we'd go to class from like 9 to 12:15, have a couple hours, but it wasn't long enough for us to go back to our dorm because the dorm was like 30 minutes away. And then we'd go out and about with our professor and go tour stuff. Are you done? We'd go out and about with our professor and like tour stuff, do activities, stuff like that, go to museums. And then we'd get back late sometimes. If we went to an opera or a concert, we'd get back at like 10:30, 11. And then, yeah, so it was a lot. But I had, before this, never been out of the country before, out of the continental US. So this was my first trip into Europe. And I was in Vienna, though. I am only basing this off my experience with this program and in Vienna. So if it's different for other countries, I apologize. I just know about Austria and Vienna. Okay, now let's get into the tips. My first tip is to have your finances planned out, or at least have a rough draft. Not something that is like set in stone, but something that's a little more flexible, just so you know how much you can spend every day or how much you should be spending, and if you spend a little less on one day, you can spend more on another, things like that. It'll make it so much easier. And my trip, I didn't have to pay for public transportation. My professor bought us the bus passes and stuff. So all of the public transportation was free to use for us. We still had passes and stuff. But on another note, we didn't get checked for our passes, not once. So did we even really have to buy them? Yes, but in Vienna, it was more of a like honest kind of thing. You wouldn't check your tickets. Someone would just randomly come up to you and be like, "Hey, do you have a ticket to be on here?" And we never saw it happen. It never happened to us, but we did have public transportation passes for all 6 weeks. But if you have to pay for that, make sure you allot money for that, because public transportation is chef's kiss. It is the best thing to ever happen. It was so easy to get around places when Google Maps wasn't lying to you. But yeah, just know my professor before going on the trip was like $50 a day, but I realized I could get by with spending just $30, and sometimes I didn't spend more than $20. So just have a rough draft of your financial plan. Also be aware of the conversion rate. When I was in Vienna, I was very lucky. The conversion rate for the euro was close to $1. It just recently dropped to the dollar value exactly. It might be lower now. I didn't check before filming, but just be aware of the conversion rate and how much US dollar you have versus how many euros you have. Tip number 2, the food. The food there was so good, so delicious. Vienna is known for its cafe culture. So if you're American and you're going, don't be in a rush, because you will be there for a couple hours kind of thing. And the server doesn't bring you your check unless you ask for it. So also don't be impatient. Just enjoy the cafe, the coffee, the cakes, the sake torta. Enjoy it all, the atmosphere. Was one of my favorite things in Vienna. Just be prepared for the first 2 weeks. Your stomach most likely will be messed up. It is a different kind of food, prepared differently, qualities differently, qualities better. And it did not do good things for my stomach, but I have a sensitive stomach, so I don't know if it would affect other people differently. Just be wary. The difference of food could potentially shock your stomach and make time unpleasant. My third tip is to be aware of the heat. So I'm from Georgia. I go to Georgia Tech. The program was through Georgia Tech. Georgia heat is very humid and wet. Vienna heat is not. It is very dry. So be wary of that, because I felt like I was cooking in an oven constantly. Because when it was hot, it was hot. When I got back home, it was like 90 degrees here, and I was like swimming in water, but I was like, it feels so good. Like, it just feels amazing, because the dry heat is like no joke. And if you're used to dry heat and going to like a country that has more humidity, just be wary of that, because it's no joke. Also, if you are going to a country that has more dry heat from a humid like state or humidity country, be wary of what it will do to your hair. My hair was so dried out. My dandruff came back. And honestly, I don't know why. I think it was just lack of humidity, because I did find myself taking colder showers, which I know is better for the hair than like scalding showers. But there's no air conditioning, so the only like relief you get is from a cold shower. So also be wary of no air conditioning. But yeah, just be cautious and prepared for what it will do to your hair. Because at first I thought it was my heating tools, but then I stopped using my heating tools, and it was in fact not my heating tools. But I came back and my hair bounced back instantly. So my fourth tip will be to be wary of staying in shape, or your shape before going on the trip. I was very, very out of shape before this trip. If I could go back, I would have like ran or something before, because my professor walks at like Mach speed, and everyone was able to keep up, but I was always dragging behind just because I was not used to it. And then we also went on a hike. We hiked like 8.3 miles in under 3.5 hours. It was miserable for me. I had like an asthma attack, and I don't even really have asthma, but I had to use an inhaler for the first time. I was just not in shape. But let me tell you, I left in really good shape. So if you're looking for a way to get into shape really quickly, go study abroad. We just walked everywhere. We were walking like 5 to 10 miles every day. It was very good for my physical health. I will say that. My fifth tip is, I know in Germany, I believe as well, but definitely in Austria, everything is closed on Sundays. The only thing open will be American restaurants, so like McDonald's, Burger King, and Domino's. There, I think, is a Billa that is open, but it's way across town, like on the other end of where we were staying, so it wasn't worth going. But the Billa is like the superstore there, like their Walmart. But don't fly in like I did on a Saturday. So I got there Saturday night, woke up, needed things, but everything was closed, so I couldn't get anything until Monday. But we started school on Monday. So just save yourself the hassle. Make sure when you fly in that everything is open the next day. But also, there are a bunch of religious holidays in Austria that are like national holidays. So there will be random days during the week that the stores will also be closed. Just be on the lookout for that. Plan around it. It's easy, but just make sure you know about it. My sixth tip is to be cautious of new programs. So this was the first time this program got off its feet. It had tried to in the past, but COVID shut it down a couple times. Some of the stress could have been avoided if the trip had been planned, if it had already been done before. But since we were the guinea pigs and it was the first time being done on us, a lot of things we had critiques about that would have been worked out if the program had 2 or 3 more years under its belt. So just be cautious of new programs, because it will be more stressful than an already established program. Tip number 7 is, if at all possible, go in with friends. I went in not really knowing anybody, and the guy I did know, it was just acquaintance level. It was very hard mentally to be around people I didn't know. Only 8 of us for 6 weeks all the time. I did thankfully come out of it with one of my best friends now. He's amazing. You saw him in my last video, Elliot. Shout out, Elliot. But it's very hard to be around people who are great when you meet them normally, but since we are all the time constantly together, everyone's worst traits, even my own, were on full display. So it was very hard, like midweeks, so like week 3 through 5, to be just like wanting to be around other people, just because we had been around each other constantly all the time. There were never any breaks because we would go to school, go around the city, go home, go to bed, and most of us had roommates in the program, and then wake up and do it all over again. There were just no breaks, and new friendships in order to be healthy. I think that is just a very bad way to start off. That is just my personal opinion. If you're okay with that, good, great. It's something that goes along with the immersion program. I feel like normal study abroad doesn't have that issue. So just be cautious of that. Tip number 8, and I think this one might be the most important tip in my opinion, but don't get too close to your professor. Now on this trip, it was very hard for us not to, but on a normal study abroad, try not to get too close, because you end up, at least in my case and a couple other people's case on the trip, we just felt like we were constantly a disappointment. My German wasn't as good as other people's on the trip, and I will admit that I didn't have enough time to study for my learning style. I needed more time, and I just didn't have it. And my German suffered from it, and I felt like I was constantly a disappointment to my professor, and that is just so draining on you mentally. I don't recommend it. If you do get close to your professor, try not to feel like you're a disappointment, because it's just not fun. Tip number 9, the time difference. This kind of is self-explanatory. There was a 6-hour time difference, and if you are like me, you didn't go in with any friends, got too close to the professor, stuff like that, and you needed someone to talk to, like, about your mental health, you would be waiting hours sometimes, like 3 o'clock in the afternoon for anyone, like the earliest people to get up. You'd be going to bed at like 5 home time. So it just wasn't ideal to connect with people you already knew and to have a healthy outlet to talk to. So just be wary about that. Thankfully, a lot of people in my sorority did other Georgia Tech programs. So like my big was in Lorraine, and it was easy to talk to her. But I would just be wary about that. And number 10, mental health as a tip. Just do whatever you have to make sure your mental health stays strong, and you will have the best time. If your mental health is crap, you will not be having a good time. You will be struggling like I did. Don't do that to yourself. Just make sure whatever you can do in your power to have a good mental health mindset going into it, on the trip, leaving it, make sure you have it. Like, if it's to kill someone, kill someone. Like, don't. I'm not encouraging that or endorsing that. But if that's what you need to do, like, do it. Your mental health is so important, especially when you're on a trip for the first time, far away from home for weeks on end. It is so immensely important, and it will make or break a trip. Just take care of it. That'll be the best tip, is just take care of your mental health. Thank you if you got this far. Those were my 10 tips. Things I wish I knew before going into study abroad. I know this isn't the same experience that everyone's had. This was just based on my experience. So if you liked it, leave a like. If you liked it even more, subscribe. I have to go take my dog out. And I will see you on the flip side. Bye.